Alright, let's finally pop this guy open and give it a try. Now, I've never used this device before, but I've seen videos of people using it, and I get the idea of how it works. So, not much to it, because it's self-contained. There's other desoldering stations where you've got a dedicated vacuum pump device, and then it connects through tubes to this. This is all in one piece, so it's a bit big, it's a bit heavy, but this end gets hot. There's a suction pump inside. You squeeze the trigger, it sucks molten solder, collects in here. Pop this out to clean it periodically. That's the gist of it. You can get different tips, and they have this tool to exchange them. And the reason you've got this big bulky tool, which I think might be Bakelite, is because, well, you can do it while it's hot. Otherwise you'd have to wait for this to cool down. One of the features apparently that makes this work well is this whole thing stays pretty toasty. Others just heat the tip, and when the solder gets sucked in and it's cooling down, it can clog up this. Which doesn't mean this can never get clogged, but if it does, you got this pointy bit to go and clean it out. Looks like it just comes with this tip. You can get others, but I've heard they're pretty expensive. Looks like we get 2 replacement filters and this little metal gizmo that I think goes on the back end. And yes, lots of people warned me about the stand. This is the stand. It's kind of not a stand. You get that. So I've been encouraged by a number of other people to get a better stand, but I've also seen some just take their soldering iron stand and just do that. Although this one is not obviously not going to be sturdy enough again, because this is all contained in this. It's a bit heavy and bulky. I think this is another cleaning tool should it be needed. So I think we're just good to go as is. No assembly required. Looks like the end is plugged up, but I think that's just because it's tinned with solder. Find out in a bit. I think the only thing you can do with this in terms of adjustments is temperature down here. You 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 being the lowest, 660 Fahrenheit. Highest is 930. Because this is a vintage phenolic board, we're going to try to keep the temp low. It's a trade-off. If you go too low, you got to heat the board up for a longer time, which can do damage. If you go too hot, solder melts up quickly and get in and out, but you might damage the board, so it's not as robust as fiberglass. Alright, so let's pick a likely thing. The thing that jumped out at me right away was this white cap. I want to test some of these parts too as I take them out. I'm curious, because this is new enough. There shouldn't be any paper caps, but that sure looks like one to me. So I got this plugged in. Is it getting hot? Doesn't seem to be. Ah, there's power on the side. Oh yeah. So I was reading a guy comparing this to some other models, and one of the complaints is this. That's your power and temperature indicator. On the front of it, where your hand covers, so you can never see it when you're holding it like this, and to turn it around, you got to put the pointy hot bit at your face. So that's so nice, but I guess I got to turn it on. Yeah, so now that's red. Now it's getting warm. I don't recommend you do that, but I've been doing this a long time, so I'm not going to burn myself, probably. Interesting. Noises coming out of it. So I've seen it go off and on. It said flashing. I don't know if that's what they mean by flashing. It's not flashing very rapidly, is it? And yes, that's some people call the farting sound. So let's give it a try. Man, I think I gotta rig up some kind of jig for this board too, because it's so fragile. I hate to keep moving it around. Geez, the pad's already busted off this cap actually. Huh, I wonder if that's what took this thing out of commission, because this lead, the part of the pad broke loose. Let's try to find the other end. Now, one way we do have, they do have silk screening on the bottom of this to give you, not hang on, a little more light on this, to show you where the part leads are going, so I can see that cap. This is one end of it. See, one problem I can see with this right away is the leads, some of them are bent over. Ideally, you put this hollow bit over the lead, and then you suck the solder out, but when the lead's bent over, and I don't really want to straighten out the lead because you put stress on the board. But this one was fairly straight, so let's give it a shot. So I got to put it on, melt, suck. I'll tell you though, as soon as I heated up the lead, actually the part came out, and when I sucked it, it pulled it back down. So that was actually counterproductive. There, so I don't even need suction, I just pulled it, and see the other end is loose because it broke off. So our first use of this device, I would not say was exactly a rounding success, because, well, it didn't really do anything for us. Let's try something else. I don't want to go too crazy, because of course I got to put this stuff back. So the other thing I want to try doing is using this on terminal strips, and I've heard mixed things about how well it works, and I can see that because it's got the hollow tip, and normally you use this on circuit boards, and you put this over the component or chip lead, and you just draw the solder out. Terminal strip's going to be a different beast. You want to heat it up on the side and try to draw all the solder from all around all the wires that are wrapped around it. Might work better with a different tip, I suspect. Well, here's one that's really easy to get at. Resistor. See, these leads are really sticking out long. It's like sticking out like 1/4 of an inch on the other side. But I should be able to get this down. And yeah, again, I don't even need to suck. I just get it over that and it melts and the part's starting to fall out. Let's try doing this the way though. You see, I left too much solder behind, and the component is still adhered. I think what I really need to do is either straighten out the leads, cut them short, both, to really make this effective. And I can't really flex this board, or I'm trying to avoid flexing it, so. Alright, so that worked, yeah. So by clipping the lead so there was barely any left and then sucking the solder, that worked. Now the other end is bent over, so it's not going to come out so easily. But I can do that. Actually, no, it is. It was just, there's two parts and I couldn't tell what was going on. Now that I removed most of the solder, I can. So let me try to get in here close as I finish this one off so you can get a better idea of what I'm doing. So this is the pad. It's sort of an elongated pad with two component leads coming up through the one on this side. The one, here's my thumb here, that's the one I'm trying to get out. So I take the hollow tip of this, put it over the lead, and as soon as the solder is molten, pull the trigger like that. And there you go. Curious though, I'm on the lowest temperature setting and it's melting that solder really quick. Definitely don't need to go any hotter than that. Now, I'm going to replace those two parts before they do any more because I don't want to lose track. I'm pretty sure I ordered up one of these because it's a little bit oddball value. It's 1.2K, I think 1 watt. And then I want to test this guy too. So it's got a cap bridge. 0.068 1000 volt cap. That's a pretty important one. It's probably on the damper circuit or something like that. Certainly on the horizontal output circuit. There we go. Yeah, I think I got a replacement part for that too. I went through the parts list before I even got this and ordered up all the strange looking part values that I was pretty sure I didn't have on hand. I guess something else I'll have to remember to do is if I want to switch between desoldering and soldering and I'm not going to use this for a while, I guess I should turn it off. And obviously need to get a stand for it. So I don't. So right for now, I'm just going to put it off to the side. Fire up my soldering iron. I figured this wouldn't be the be-all, end-all and solve all my soldering woes, but it was on sale. People have been asking me to try one out for years, so I thought I'd get it. What I more typically do when I work with boards, especially fragile boards, is I don't do this. I don't try to straighten out the leads because you break the traces. Is I cut the parts off the top and then heat up the pads and the remains just fall off. So I've really been kind of like, I don't know if that's really going to be that great. I'm more interested in seeing how does it work on point-to-port wiring, with tube socket terminals and all that, because some of those I have damaged. I'll pull out another chassis, we'll play around with it. Ideally, when I'm replacing parts, let me get an old chassis so we can look while I talk. Alright, here is a power supply chassis. We look at the bottom of tube sockets. So they have they're stamped metal, and there's an opening, there's an eyelet, and they put wires through, bend them over, and solder them up. Sometimes I do J-hook wiring because I don't want to overstress these and break one off. I got to replace the tube socket or try to patch it back together. Because by trying to unsolder that and untwist wires when there's 2 or 3 going in there, you're putting a lot of stress at odd points on it. So I'm curious, how well can I clean one of these out? Now, I don't actually need to do anything to this. It's done, but for the sake of demonstration, I'm going to fire this back up, and I'm going to try to suck all the solder out of 1 or 2 of these tube socket pin eyelets here. While we wait a little bit for it to heat up, here's what's going on inside. So there's sort of like a cup at the back end, and the solder must come flying in and hit that, and it's starting to collect up back in there. I think we're temperature, so I'm going to try to get this guy. It just has 1 wire going to it. So I don't have a lead to put down that hole. I'm just going to press it up against the side. And yeah, it's melting it. Alright, that worked alright. I don't expect the wire to just fall off, but yeah, that cleaned it out pretty darn well. Let's try another one. Get this white guy next to it. I'll try to... No, I'll leave that. I'm going to try to pull out something that's actually got some terminal strips on it for another test. Alright, let's try to clean off this lug. We've got 2 wires and a capacitor going to it. So again, I'll go up on the side. And I can definitely see where tinning, adding some new solder, can help out to conduct heat and get everything molten. I figured that was going to be the biggest challenge trying to use this, is to get a good contact and melt all the solder. Alright, seems to be flowing pretty well. Yeah, it works, but it doesn't get it all out in one shot. And I can definitely see, depending on where it's at, you got this big gun, are you going to be able to get it in there and get it both sides and get it at a good angle? And again, I didn't get every trace of it, so the parts aren't just falling off, but yeah, I think even with what I did, grab some needle nose pliers, I think I could probably unwrap that cap lead with what I've done so far. Or wire lead or whatever this is. Yeah, pretty much. I don't really want to take this apart, so I'm going to put this back on. But yeah, is it a radical improvement over using desoldering braid or solder sucker? Not really, but I can see the one nice thing is if you use desoldering braid, you have to constantly clip it off and pull out fresh material. and it can take a few passes to clear something off. And with solder sucker, solder pullet, which I've used for years too, the tips on those constantly clean up. Cleaning out the insides is tedious, and you need two tools. You need the soldering iron and the braid, or soldering iron and the solder sucker, where this is all in one. So yeah, for sure has uses, but no, I mean, so far it's not like, oh my god, everything's going to be instant now. You still have to do some work. But interesting device. I will definitely experiment more on this chassis with it. But yeah, there you go. I'll talk about it more as I've used it a bit more and can give you some better feedback.